Last time on Fire Emblem Three Houses.
Insolence! You will atone for the sin of trampling on this holy resting place.
Edelgard, I thought you liked us. I thought you wanted us on your side. And Petra of all people, isn't she one of your servants? Isn't she loyal to you? Why are you throwing loyal servants aside? What is wrong with you?
Professor, destroy these villainous traitors who dare dishonor our creator.
But I'm right here.
Wait, what's the meaning of this, Edelgard?
You made use of us? Why?
Technically, she is correct in her grammar. Edelgard did make use of us, but she also used us.
I'm sorry, my teacher. I cut this path, and now I must follow it.
But Edelgard, why are you throwing away useful allies that you might use later, that have been nothing but your friends? Why? Why are you not even giving them the opportunity to join your cause? Why are you creating enemies unnecessarily? Why would you do this? For someone that's made a lot of calculations, you didn't actually think this through very much, did you? Especially considering the fact that he has the sword of the creator, and you've seen him wipe out multiple armies in the past. Why are you making unnecessary enemies right now?
My friends, I ask that all of you stay back. It is not my intention to fight you.
Okay, so you still consider them friends. But why are you treating them like this then?
By order of the Adrestian Emperor, Edelgard von Hresvelg,
I was there, by the way. I'm pretty sure you're the Emperor.
I command you to collect the crest stones. If anyone attempts to stop us, kill them.
Wow. Why does Edelgard have emo cuck boys working for her? Seriously. Hubert and me today. They both look like emo cuck boys. What is it with emo cuck boys and being cucked? I'm disappointed, Edelgard.
You have disappointed me, Edelgard.
You're not the only one. I'm disappointed. What was this sloppy excuse of an insurrection? I taught you better.
To think that a descendant of House Hresvelg would dare betray the Holy Church.
So, it is my teacher who stands in my way. I always knew it would come to this.
How? What part of my teaching have I ever been against killing people? Why are you my enemy? Why am I your enemy? This makes zero sense. Edelgard, I am very disappointed. Very bad Edelgard. Needlessly making enemies with her strongest allies. Very bad Edelgard. You're pulling a Hitler here. Bad Edelgard. Very bad.
Professor, kill Edelgard at once.
No.
She is a danger to all of Fodlan. Such a rebellious heart cannot be allowed to keep beating.
Ooh! Okay, so that save is basically the decision. We're not allowed to touch that. That save we're not allowed to touch. I think I'm gonna have to...
White cloud.
We're gonna have to load it,
Lone moon.
kill Edelgard, and save it at the bottom
Outset
with the other
of a
ones.
Power struggle.
I made my decision.
Together, the people of Fodlan relish the beauty of the brilliant moon overhead as another year ends. They recall sad partings and new acquaintances alike, but each person must still walk their chosen path alone. With each day, the presence of spring grows stronger, and yet a lone moon still haunts the sky, a silent reminder perhaps of some inescapable truth.
Well, this should be interesting. So I'm guessing if we didn't...
We somehow managed to escape.
Wait, did the rest of my class just follow? You're all a bunch of simps.
This is one of the Imperial Army's provisional camps. Here we can organize our forces.
I'm still disappointed that I wasn't briefed on this plan to begin with.
Before we go any further, I want all of you to really ask yourselves if you're certain you wish to join us. As expected, Flayn has chosen to leave our ranks.
Well, shit. She was holding the staff that I gave her. How about you tell me this before the quest? Ah, crap, I just saved over it.
When I saw our professor running off, I ran about as fast as I could to catch up.
Caspar, death finds those who run without thinking. You gave no thought to the war fog. My grandfather was the leader of Brigid, and I hope for us to be allies with the Empire. I will be staying.
Why do I have a feeling a war is about to start?
Was this a good idea? Did I make the right choice? Oh, but my family is part of the Empire, and our professor is here.
You're fine here with us, Bernie. Though it's true certain houses were against the Imperial Princess.
I assume you're referring to my family. I must believe that the conclusion I came to was the correct one.
Edelgard, please don't tell him about the fact that you're torturing his father.
You are the Emperor now. I am the only one left who is qualified to guide you at this point.
Keep your mouth shut.
I'm only here because I know it would be troublesome to stand against you.
Oof!
I'm not just here for you, Adie. I'm here to follow our dear professor. Of course, I don't have any territory to offer, so Hubie may not even want me here.
Oof!
The greater our numbers, the better. Your reasons for being here are of no consequence.
I think I understand where you're coming from. But now, I wish to hear of your resolve.
What would have happened if I killed Edelgard?
Like you, I have risen to meet my destiny. I cut this path, and I will see it through to the end.
Man, we have to save that other file. This story is getting thick.
Following me is akin to pointing a sword at the goddess herself. One misstep, and we fall to our ruin.
That's ironic considering you pointed an axe at the goddess like 30 minutes ago.
You have now witnessed the Archbishop's true self. She is a cruel beast. Those who rule this world use that beast's power to fabricate miracles, all to control those who blindly believe in the goddess. They conceal the truth and force their lies on the nobility. They mercilessly annihilate anyone who defies them.
So are we basically liberating the people from a giant dragon? Who would have seen that coming?
I know this because I have lived it. After what you have seen, is there any room for doubt? The Church of Seros has great influence and power. Their control over the lords of the kingdom and the Alliance is nearly absolute. We are the only ones who can stop this indomitable enemy that has plagued our world for ages. We fight for humanity, for all of Fodlan. If you dare walk this path with me, take your first step. It's now or never. Thank you, my friends. We are the true face of the Empire, and we will triumph!
That was incredible, Lady Edelgard.
Wait, what are we doing in the forest now?
Thank you. Honestly, I'm relieved. They really chose to follow me.
You're very lucky considering you pointed an axe at them 30 minutes ago.
I was resolved to move forward alone if I had to. But in my heart, I hoped it wouldn't come to that.
A threesome in the forest? Ew.
So long as I am here, you will never be alone. Please do not forget that.
Ew.
And it would seem that the professor also has a key role to play in this.
I sense a certain level of disdain in your voice when you say professor.
You're right. Now, I must speak with our dear teacher. Please, make preparations. The messenger should be here shortly.
Consider it done.
Get to work, cock.
Professor, may I speak with you?
No, don't give me names. They might have spoilers in it. I love how we have a choice in the matter now.
I appreciate it.
What's wrong?
I'm just anxious. It feels like the weight of this burden is crushing me.
So let me get this straight. You just invaded the capital, desecrated the Holy Tomb, were trying to steal relics, and almost killed your classmates. And only now is the weight kicking in. Are you serious?
At this very moment, on my orders, I'm starting a war.
This must be your first time.
An army far larger than the one that attacked the Holy Tomb last month will soon be locked in battle. Long-devised strategies are unfolding across Fodlan. Leaders are deciding their loyalties and preparing to fight.
Yeah, maybe you shouldn't be in charge of the strategic preparement of this war, considering your positioning of the previous battle. I love symmetry as much as the next person, but yeah.
So many generals and soldiers will die. It's inevitable that civilians will get caught up in the chaos as well. There will be countless casualties. With a single command, the flames of war will rage across all corners of this realm.
War is hell, what did you expect?
And I am the one who is giving the order.
Oh yeah, you're gonna be neck deep in corpses. Warm, bloody corpses. With the smell of iron and flies buzzing above your head. You prepared for that, kiddo? This is the path you chose, isn't it? Do you wish to stop? Do you wish to stop?
No, there is no turning back now. No matter how much blood flows at my feet, I will not relent. We must break the bonds that the depraved church has placed on Fodlan.
I'm all for taking down the Catholic Church.
These sacrifices will allow us to create a future where we never need sacrifice again. It may seem contradictory, but it's the only way. Listen to me. I made up my mind long ago. Yet here I am, seeking your approval.
Well, you do have daddy issues.
Tell me the truth, my teacher. Are you happy with your decision to stay by my side?
Oh, fuck. That is one hell of a question. I know the correct answer in her ears, but I don't know the correct answer coming out.
Unlike me, you can still walk away from all of this. This path leads to the death of the Archbishop and the servants of the Church. Can you live with that?
I chose this path too.
I never thought... I'm sorry, it was a foolish question.
Why are you blushing?
I believe in you, Professor. And you believed in me. With that knowledge, I have the strength to keep fighting. Let's go. There's something I need to say to Hubert.
Your Majesty, the latest report indicates that our main army is advancing as planned.
Oh god, who's leading this army?
Also, the preparations for your manifesto are almost complete.
Manifesto! Manifesto! Edelgard, please tell me you're not a communist. I come from a former communist state, and I can tell you now, it doesn't work. Manifesto?
We will be distributing our manifesto to every lord within Fodlan.
Oh god, I know where this is going.
We will expose the dark side of the Church of Seros, and the foul practices of the nobles from the Kingdom and the Alliance.
Can I read it before you distribute it, please?
We will force the people of Fodlan to open their eyes to the truth, and relinquish any remaining conviction to unite against the Empire.
Can you please do that before you start slaughtering civilians?
Certain nobles have already offered us their support.
Yes, there are other nobles who oppose the Church. We will condemn those who deserve condemnation, and forgive those who deserve forgiveness.
Oh god, Dracula. Oh god. Oh god.
We have already purged some of the Imperial nobles who are morally rotten.
Why am I not surprised?
My father among them. How unfortunate.
Oh my god, he killed his father. Jesus, you committed patricide. You literally committed patricide. I mean, what better way to prove your loyalty to your empress than by killing your own father?
And soon we will invade and conquer Garreg Mach.
Okay, Edelgard, I must ask, since you were already in Garreg Mach with a portion of your forces, why did you not already eliminate high-priority military targets? You should have assassinated them while you were in the walls. Why didn't you? Why didn't you compromise the defenses? Why didn't you plant explosives underground? Why didn't you secure entryways? Like, why didn't you burn food supplies? All that sort of shit. Because as we know, any fortress that requires a siege will last years. Why didn't you make preparations beforehand?
Our main army has already departed the Imperial capital. They will arrive at the monastery in 2 weeks' time.
No, Edelgard, you never want to partake in a siege. Even if you win a siege, you'll lose a third of your forces just trying to scale the goddamn walls. You never do a siege. Never, ever, 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 ever. Like, ever. What you should have done is poison the water supply and burn the food. Wait for the civil unrest. And then keep reassuring the citizens that they will be unharmed and let them revolt against their own captors. The second the church starts killing civilians, there'll be an uproar and someone will open the gate. Or, at the very least, you should have left some of your own people to blend in with the populace. To open that gate. God damn it, girl. Is this your first war or something?
There, we will join forces with them.
Oh, what? And march on the giant walls?
As for us, I'd like your opinion on how we should be positioned within the army.
You're not asking me where you want me to position the army. You're asking me where we should be positioned in the army. Oh, God. We are the Imperial Shield. We are the Imperial Sword. Oh, boy. Well, being the Vanguard will increase morale, but does increase risk because we won't be able to command the rest of the forces. Commanding the rest of the forces runs the risk that they'll be demoralized. This is a very Napoleon approach to it. Running up first. And this is a very Spartan approach. That being said, the Spartans did a lot better.
Your Majesty intends to fight alongside the Professor, correct? In that case, you will not be incorporated into the Empire's main army. Your squad can move freely about the battlefield under supervision of the Imperial forces. That would be most prudent.
Why is someone else leading the entire army?
Now that I'm the Emperor, we can't let it slip that I'm following your command in battle, Professor.
Oh, thank God you're listening to an advisor. You've shown some fucking wisdom. Thank Christ.
I fully object to the notion of you fighting on the front lines.
She shouldn't.
Hubert, we've already discussed this.
Oh, for the love of God, please wear a helmet.
My apologies. I overstepped.
Please wear a helmet. You'd be shocked how many wars have been lost by the ruler getting hit with a stray arrow.
Now that the details are settled, all that's left is to come up with a name for ourselves.
Kuma's on LSD.
In honor of our time at the Academy, how about we call ourselves the Black Eagle Strike Force?
BESF. Ooh! BESF! I like it! I love it.
I'm so happy you feel that way. I must confess that I spent all night thinking about it.
You stayed up late the night before a mission? I'm about to bitch slap you.
I'll leave it to you to prepare the Black Eagle Strike Force for departure.
She's actually showing some wisdom listening to someone that's more experienced in combat than herself. One of the main reasons most monarchs fail is because they think they're good at everything, and they try to control everything, which rarely works. That was the problem with Germany in World War II. You need to listen to your most experienced advisors. Kuma, the reason you aren't leading is because they don't know you have the second brain of a Slav and the soul of a goddess. This month you will operate from a temporary encampment, so the available facilities are limited. You can head out to the battlefield by approaching the temporary encampment's exit and selecting to battle. Oh shit! The Black Eagles are here! Wow. Okay, this is the save prior to shit going down. Does that mean we've unlocked all this? Yes! We've unlocked the supports. Wait, why are more supports locked? Wait, what? Alright, so who's here? Happy's here. Constance is here. Yuri's here. Linhardt. Caspar. Soldier number 1. Ferdinand. Bernie. Petra. Okay, who else is here? Who else is here? Felix. Leonie. Ooh, Lysithia. My little mini nuke. Ash.
Ah, yes.
Who the fuck are you? Ah, Mercedes-Benz. Where would I be without you? Armorer, blacksmith. Is this it? No Shamir? What about Shamir? What about Ash? Well, this is going to be interesting. Alright, let's save it. And let's load the save file to try to make a backup. Because this story feels like it's going to split into 2. And the second story will probably be if Edelgard is dead. Now, here's a question. And is it spoilery to ask if Edelgard is the Flame Emperor in other routes? It probably is, isn't it? It is, isn't it? It is spoilery if I ask if Edelgard is... Like, because what are the odds of if we play another route, the Flame Emperor changes? That's the only thing. Maybe don't answer. She is? Or it is a spoilery question? Okay, can I save this? Except for Fleanne. So Fleanne's the only one that left. But she left with the item I gave her. Did she at least give it back? That slut!
You have disappointed me. Adel, to think that it...
So,
Professor, she...
Damn it, I can't copy this save, can I? Are we able to copy saves? I want to copy this save. I don't want to lose it. It's save number 2 on the file. I really want to copy it. I want to save it for later in case we decide to play the other route. You know what I mean? Unless we have to replay the whole game to get to this route. I'm kind of invested in this story now. I'm really invested in this story. There's a goddamn war going down. You can start the other route and put the save elsewhere. Can we manage saves? Copy? Oh, fuck yes! See how many times I save this? Select where you want to copy the file. 1, 2, 3, 4. Wow, look how many times I fucking saved. Look how many times I saved. Like, this is important. I saved like 8 times. I think 3 times is sufficient. If I copy something 3 times, it's important. So this was the decision to do something, and this is the decision to kill or not kill Edelgard. Can we really quickly just watch what happens if you kill her? I'm not going to continue that route, but I just really quickly want to see it. I didn't even know about the copy function, and you've done every route. I've invested in the story even though the gameplay isn't my style. I don't mind the gameplay.
You have disappointed me, Edelgard.
We've fucked the game a little bit because we're over-leveled, but to be fair, the next time we play, we're going to play on a harder difficulty. So, bear with me since I'm still learning how to play the game. When we do a second route, if we do a second route, we'll play on a harder difficulty, which will be fair because we'll know how to play. So, if this route is kind of like easy, okay, whoop-de-fucking-do, you know what I mean?
To think that a descendant of House Hresvelg would dare betray the Holy Church.
Hresvelg.
So,
She sounds
it is
German.
my teacher who stands in my way. I always knew it would come to this.
Wait, if we try to kill her, she might just disappear or something.
Professor,
Teleport no jutsu.
kill Edelgard at once.
Edelgard, what did I tell you about wearing a helmet?
She is a danger to all of Fodlan. Such a rebellious heart cannot be allowed to keep beating.
I must kill.
I will withdraw for now.
Ha! She doesn't die.
Come, Hubert.
See?
To flee is futile, wicked girl. The Church of Seros will raise its entire army against you until you have been captured and punished.
At this point, I would be shocked if Rhea doesn't give command of at least one division of the army to the protagonist, considering how loyal he's been to her and the fact that he's willing to kill one of his own students. I mean, if you ever needed a bigger test of loyalty, what more do you want?
You have defiled the holy tomb, dishonored the goddess, and humiliated your brethren. That crime will never be erased. Even if you burn in the eternal flames and spill all of your blood into the goddess's soil.
Jesus Christ, Rhea.
Come, Professor. Let us return and decide upon our next course of action.
Edelgard and Hubert have disappeared. They will surely return to the Empire.
Oh no, Seth, you annoy the shit out of me.
The Knights have been dispatched to search and investigate. If there is any movement, we will know. We cannot ignore the possibility that there will soon be open hostilities between us and the Imperial Army.
You think?
When that happens, are you prepared to fight your own? If you wish to return to the Empire, I will not stop you. That is your choice to make.
If Edelgard is acting afoul, then we have no choice but to strike her down.
It's up to us to stop them. We have a war on our hands.
Really? You kids will literally side with anyone your professor sides with. Can't you think for yourselves?
I have no interest in fighting, not even for her. And yet...
How are we supposed to decide just like that?
Oh my god, you really are children. What have I taught you kids? Think for yourselves. Fight for your own convictions. Believe what you believe.
Hubie, I'm sorry about this, but I'm siding with the professor.
Cuck.
Her doings are wrong. It is our duty to make everything right.
But didn't she raise you? Didn't she look after you? Like, Jesus.
I am sure you all have much on your mind. I encourage you to confer with your professor and make a decision. You have until the fighting commences. Professor, I am depending on your strength for the safety of Fodlan.
Wow.
The leaders of the church have misused its creed to fulfill their true desire, to rule the world. They have fooled the people of Fodlan. Long ago, they divided the Empire to create a kingdom, and then divided that kingdom to create an alliance.
This is a nice screenshot. Future Kuma, use this for screenshot purposes.
They did all of this to make the masses bicker amongst themselves. They caused instability in order to reinforce their own authority.
Okay, so you understand the concept of divide and conquer.
They gathered gold and lived in extravagance. How? By preying on the devotion of those who wished for the goddess's salvation.
They really are the Catholic Church.
Those corrupt hypocrites cannot lead Fodlan to true peace. Their foul belief system must be torn asunder so that true wisdom may finally prevail. And so, I have decided. By order of the Adrestian Emperor, Edelgard von Hresvelg, the Empire hereby declares war on the Church of Seros.
Anyone else getting Hitler vibes here?
I cannot believe it. Let us recount the situation as it stands, Professor. After you returned from the Holy Tomb, the Adrestian Empire declared war upon the Church of Seros, as well as our allies.
Why? Why would you declare war? Why not just attack? Declared war?
Edelgard demanded her own father relinquish the throne, and then assumed the position of Emperor. She has deemed the Church of Seros to be an evil of this world, and is calling upon the people of Fodlan to help her tear it down.
Good strategy.
I must discuss our response to this declaration with the Archbishop, after the Knights return from their investigation.
What's your response gonna be? I refuse to engage in war? Well, too late. That's not how war works.
Until then, watch over the students. see that they remain calm.
Alright, class. Time for exam number 1. War. I mean, let's face it. These kids have been taught about war for the past how long? I've been teaching them about the importance of strategy.
Part 1. White clouds. Lone moon. To war.
Ooh! Wow, that was a chill down my spine.
Together, the people of Fodlan relish the beauty of the brilliant moon overhead as another year ends. They recall sad partings and new acquaintances alike, but each person must still walk their chosen path alone. With each day, the presence of spring grows stronger, and yet a lone moon still haunts the sky, a silent reminder perhaps of some inescapable truth.
Let's keep it nice and blind. Let's not point out the differences. Let's discuss that when we finish the route. We'll have when we finish the route, we'll probably just have a sit down and discuss a lot of things and then see where we move on from there. So let's enjoy it blind and then let's talk about the stuff we might have seen, might not have seen, and all that good stuff. You only have one opportunity to enjoy it blind. 5,000! I love how they're bribing me. Wait, so do I just keep teaching at this point?
Unforgivable. I cannot fathom that the Adrestian Empire would embark on such a violent course of action.
You mean after they tried to kill us?
The fault is my own. I failed to see the wickedness within Edelgard's heart.
You didn't even pay any attention to any of the students, much less spend time with them. Is she wicked?
She plotted with ill-meaning strangers to achieve her own ambitions and defiled the holy tomb. If that is not wicked, what is?
Diddling little boys?
Or perhaps her ambitions are even grander than we know. Perhaps she is planning to make herself a false deity by demonizing the Church of Seros.
Not everyone wants to be a god.
Adrestia received its very name through a divine oracle. To injure the goddess is a sin most foul that shall not be forgiven, nor forgotten. We must stop the Empire. And quickly.
I love how she's using the name of the goddess.
I have returned, Rhea.
Oh shit! Is that why Shamir's not... Is Shamir not going to join us if we go with Edelgard?
Welcome back, Shamir. Were you able to discern the Empire's movements?
Their main troops are marching towards Garreg Mach. It is said that they will join forces with Edelgard's army and arrive within 2 weeks.
2 weeks? That is not enough time. It will require all of our efforts just to prepare our defenses before then.
Edelgard's doing a blitzkrieg.
We must send notice to all surrounding villages at once. We must order the residents of Garreg Mach to flee for their lives.
If Edelgard plays her cards right, she's not going to injure any of the civilians. That was a mistake that Germany made in World War II by burning down villages and killing civilians in Russia. And then when the winter came, they had 0 supply lines. Meanwhile, all the civilians in the countryside throughout Russia actually hated Stalin. And had the Germans been kind to them, they would have actually helped them during the war. But Hitler was too blinded by rage that he started killing civilians that would have made powerful allies. If Edelgard plays her cards right, she won't harm any civilians, which in turn would raise her support throughout the kingdom. Then when the siege finally happens on Garreg Mach, the civilians that were spared will basically start telling other civilians that Edelgard is a good ruler. Meanwhile, the Empire, well, not the Empire, but the Church will try to have an iron grip on the people. The people will start revolting and look at Edelgard as a liberator rather than a conqueror. That's when the Church will literally topple from within itself. But then again, Edelgard is probably too inexperienced to know that. You gotta be a student of history to understand war.
It will be done.
Professor, listen closely. If our enemy invades the monastery, I will have no choice but to stand upon the battlefield. If something happens to me, I am entrusting my sacred duties to you.
You mean if you accidentally turn into a big white dragon and fly away? Why me?
You must have guessed it by now. The truth of who you are.
Oh shit, she knows.
Or perhaps I should say, Your lost memories are surely beginning to return. I have acted all these long years as a mere proxy for you. But the duty is yours, and yours alone. Only you can lead the people of Fodlan.
Are you bribing me with leadership of the church?
Rhea, please. You must tell me all that you know. I beg of you. That one is the progenitor god. Am I correct?
Progenitor? Oh my god, I played enough Resident Evil to know that this is bad. Screenshot.
In a sense, our dear professor is a vessel. One who carries the power of the progenitor god within.
Nani?
In time, the vessel will become one with the power contained within, and the progenitor god shall return to this world.
I see. I trust that you are aware of the questionable nature of this experiment. But I suppose there is no turning back.
Excuse me, you said experiment. What did you do to my mother?
I ask that you help our friend. And in doing so, help her. I am waiting and hoping for the moment when our creator rules this wayward land once more.
I understand. As ever, I will take you at your word.
Lady Rhea, brother, I will do my part as well.
Salmon Girl.
Flame, were you eavesdropping? Regardless, I am glad to hear it. You owe your life to the professor after all. And in the end, they may prove to be our brethren.
Of course.
You have my gratitude, Sedith. And you as well,
Great.
Flame.
Everyone with green hair is related to the goddess in some way.
As followers of the progenitor god, it is up to us to see our mission through.
Well, this is a vastly different turn of events. In one, we are actually starting a war with the church. In the other, we are set to be a ruler of the church. Go away, Constance. Shit! So Edelgard is gone in this one. Right. With all the time I invested in Edelgard, even if I didn't like the other route, it would be such a shame not to play it, because we've invested so much time in her. That being said, I'd be interested in the other route, which is the one that we're currently doing on this load. But to be fair, this is probably the route that plays out if we're leading another house anyway, because I don't see the other houses turning on the church, right? You know what I mean? I don't see Dimitri pulling a coup. I don't see what's-his-name pulling a coup. They don't show any signs of dissatisfaction with the Empire. But that being said, I haven't spent a lot of time with them. Interesting. Very interesting indeed. No doubt what I'm going to end up doing within the next week is doing some of the mock battles and unlocking a few more support things. So next week we're probably going to have more supports, as well as doing a little bit more of the story in the Edelgard route. I don't know what it's called, but Black Eagle Strike Force sounds pretty cool. I don't know what the route is called. Well, I'm going with the route that I chose. I chose the Edelgard route. I find that the most interesting, and I think that's the one I would choose. That being said, is the name of that route spoilery by any chance? Because I'm going to need to find out a name for this part of the LP, and I will be editing out the LP, don't worry. I've just been a little bit kept down by having to get ready for the move. But once the move is finalized, it's going to be a lot easier. Is the name of... Yeah, is it spoilery? I mean, if it's like a spoiler-free name, I'm all for hearing it. But if it's spoilery, I kind of don't want to get spoiled. You made your choice, now you get to use it. Well, that's the whole point, right? You make decisions and you live with it and you see where it takes you. That's the beauty of games. Crimson Flower? Oof! That actually sounds cool. Crimson Flower. Oof. That sounds cool. That sounds cool. I'm looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to it. Just reading a little bit of the comments you guys have here regarding what Gerald will do and how he doesn't trust Rhea and he wanted to keep an eye on her. The mystery surrounding Byleth's mother, Gerald's age and all that sort of stuff. There's a lot of questions regarding that, which is very curious. I do believe that Gerald would, of course, side with his son. I think regardless of decisions, there is a relationship between parent and child. And depending on the circumstance, parents typically would side with their kids. But then at the same time, it will be interesting to see how it plays out. Regarding additional routes, we'd have to see after we finish the Crimson Flower route. I like the name of that, Crimson Flower. It's got a nice ring to it. We'd have to see after that route. Of course, the LP is going to continue. It's been on and off. We'll see how it goes. We'll see how we go for time and what other games are out. But so far, Fire Emblem, even though it was my first Fire Emblem game, I can definitely see the appeal to it. I like the story so far. I like the characters. They're memorable. The gameplay is fun. It's definitely fun to do. The bit of grinding that I do in the background is a bit tedious, but then again, I'm doing it mainly for the support missions because I wanted to unlock as many of those as quickly as possible as to not miss them. Thankfully, we did do that and we did recruit a good number of characters. Unfortunately, not everyone was recruited, but hey, you can't really expect to recruit all the characters in one playthrough in a game that has multiple routes, right? So it is what it is. But by the same token, by having recruited so many characters, if we ever do an additional route, we won't have to spend as much time doing supports because we would have already done the supports for some of the characters in this route. So one way or another, we're going to spend time with everyone at some point if we do a second route. So it's not all bad. But being our first route, of course, it's not going to be the most efficient. It's not going to be the quickest. And it's going to be a learning experience, as with anything. So, just we're enjoying it. We're taking our time with it and we're enjoying it. But it's definitely getting to the meat of the story. Up until this point, it's been like an arbitrary external villain who just so happened to be some sort of... Was he a priest or something in the church? Turned out to be a bad guy with a death knight that wanted to do something. And then you had the twist of Sothis actually being the goddess within us who granted us her power. And now the twist that Edelgard is the Flame Emperor, which I didn't see coming. There were clues, I guess. The fact that she has a flame crest, the fact that her emblem is red, the fact that she's dissatisfied with what's going on in the political climate. There were definitely clues, but it makes me wonder where she found the time to act as the Flame Emperor during the story sequences we previously played. And I think on a second playthrough, there might be hints like Edelgard not being around whenever the Flame Emperor is around, which I didn't pick up on. I typically pick up on this shit, but I didn't pick up on this shit, regardless of Edelgard actually being in our house, which is a little bit... Kuma, you missed it. Recruiting characters with supports with the house leader is probably the most time-efficient method. Thinking about it, regardless of how people think of Rhea, her rage of Byleth betraying on Crimson Flower makes sense as he stole the goddess's power, and they did intend to use him for progenitor god Sothis' revival. They probably didn't know Sothis vanished either. True. I don't know how... they explained that he's a vessel who eventually the power of Sothis and the vessel fuse becoming one. But I don't know if that means he loses his personality and individuality and then Sothis takes over, or if Sothis is like an echo of the god being the creator, and I don't know how it is. I'm sure they'll explain that at some point. But that's also a part of a story in itself, which is interesting, but not as interesting to me as the war part. I think the war part's going to bring a lot of dynamics in play because Edelgard has spent the past, a year or so in Garrett Mark forming friendships which are obviously going to be very strained and tested in times of war because she effectively only sided with Hubert even Petra was on the sideline when she declared her insurrection, and the only reason we're on her side is because we chose to be on her side. So I can only imagine how many of her friends she's lost from Garrett Mark. I don't think Dimitri, or I forget his name, are even going to be on her side in this war, because just look how she treated us. She started an insurrection, you know, without even offering us to join. And our opportunity to join her only happened when we decided not to kill her, you know, which was just a 1 in a million anyway. So things are going to get interesting, to say the least. The Flame Emperor threat always felt a bit distant so far. The first parts of the game like your typical monthly villain appearance, but thanks to the twist of Edelgard becoming Flame Emperor, it makes it hit differently. There was always a question of who the F is the Flame Emperor. It was always some random person that didn't exactly do much, but they were always there. The primary threat was always that church guy turned evil guy, whose name I already forgot. He struck me as the primary threat, but he was eliminated with 1 arrow. So, I mean, the signs were there with her having the flame crest. I mean, yes, but also no. I mean, I get it. She has the flame crest, but she might not necessarily be, you know what I mean? Like, oh, I have a flame crest, so I'm going to be Flame Emperor. Fire has been associated with power and religion for so long that having a flame crest wouldn't necessarily be the main hint. I mean, it could be. It could be the reason why she chose to call herself the Flame Emperor. I certainly hope she decides to wear the helmet, because that will definitely block arrows from hitting her, which would really help. Because the last thing you want to do is lose the leader of the Empire at a time of war, especially in a battle. So definitely Edelgard wear a goddamn helmet. But other than that, if we ever do a replay, it's going to be interesting to observe all the interactions with the Flame Emperor in play, because I didn't pick up on the fact that Edelgard might have been the Flame Emperor. So it'll be interesting to see. It'll be interesting to see. I guess in hindsight, it was also obvious as Crest and Flame Emperor and Emperor's Rule and Empire should have been chosen a different title. Hindsight, like, in hindsight, everyone's right. But at the time, I didn't pick up shit. So let's just enjoy it for what it is. Let's just enjoy it for what it is. But I certainly hope that she doesn't blunder. It's good so far that she's decided to listen to her teacher and have him run a strike force, but I sincerely hope that people managing her military are experienced, because the last thing you need is an inexperienced leader in a time of war. That's not what you want. At the same time, on the home front, you want to make sure that there is someone semi-experienced running the Empire, ensuring that the people have food, ensuring that everything is running smoothly, because the last things you would want is to cripple your own home or your own kingdom in a time of war and then lose the support of your own people. Because wars obviously cost lives, they cost resources, and people that could otherwise be preparing food and farming and gathering, you know, wood and things like that are going to be sent to the front lines, especially when the main military starts getting casualties, you know. That's what happens in war. So the last thing you want is to cripple your own kingdom, because if that happens, even if you win the war, you're fucked anyway. And the main strategy would be that once you go out to war, the supplies that you gather are not from your own kingdom, but rather your enemy's kingdom. The strategy is to get their resources, you know, take their food, take their firewood, raid their supply lines. I believe the saying is that every cart of supplies that you steal from the enemy is worth 10 of your own. You know, every piece of equipment that you take from your enemy is worth 10 of your own. Every piece of grain, every, you know, potato, every, you know, because you're not depriving your own kingdom of the resource, you're also depriving your enemy of the resource, and you're also not having to transport the resource from your own base camp to your main force. I think another saying is you don't load your cart more than twice. Yeah, I think that comes from The Art of War. I've honestly read that several times. Well, I didn't read it, I listened to the audiobook, but I think that's one of the key talents from it. You're supposed to get your supplies from the war itself rather from your own people. So it's going to be interesting to see what she does. She is declaring war against, I believe, 2 other kingdoms as well. So numbers-wise, she's technically at a disadvantage. But numbers aren't everything, as we know, but there is still technically a numbers disadvantage. She does have the element of surprise on her side, which is always a very good thing to have in war. She has the ability to strike quickly while the enemy is not prepared, but also at the same time, she's trying to rally the people against the church. Because even if she does defeat the church, if the people are not with her, she's going to be ruling nothing. So the goal would definitely be to Flame Emperor's Dancer class. Oh shit, is Hubert Dancer class? Does he get the Dancer class now? Because he did the dance? Wait, because she was dressed as because she was a tank class, is that why she appeared the way that she did? Also, this might be just funny to me because of knowing the twist, but Kuma making Edelgard a heavy armored unit all this time made the reveal funnier. Huh. So her appearance changes depending on what class she is. Interesting. Well, I think it would be a shame not having Edelgard as a heavily armored unit because, man, she hits like a truck and she has heavy armor, so it would be a waste. But it will be interesting to see what direction the war takes. It's definitely a war that can be won. It's definitely a war that can be waged tactically where you can get the support of the people, which cripples the church itself. Typically, if you're for the people in times of conflict and you have the people's support, you can definitely cripple the enemy from within, like we've discussed earlier. She has the potential to do that. I'm sure she's not the only one dissatisfied with the actions of the church. I'm sure she's not the only noble house that has been sort of wrongfully treated by the church. There's a lot of potential. She has a lot of potential. The only shocking thing is that she didn't actually try to make stronger allies before declaring her insurrection. Maybe she did that as a calculated decision as to not tip anyone off, but at the same time, she did disadvantage herself by not having the professor and the rest of her classmates on her side. Had she had them on side prior to going into the tomb, things might have been very different. It wasn't a bad time to strike. I think it just could have been executed a little bit better. And like I mentioned before, she could have already attacked supply lines. She could have attacked vital resources such as food. She could have crippled the defenses, and she could have definitely planted a few of her people within Garrett Mach prior to announcing her insurrection. That would have been something I would have done. I would have definitely tried to cripple Garrett Mach in some way. Whether it be, weakening defenses, stealing or destroying food, compromising weapons, things like that. Even potentially poisoning the food supply that's eaten by the soldiers, that sort of shit. Or even potentially, at the very least, getting the layout of the city, trying to get someone somewhere that could potentially open gates or fortified structures, something along that. Something along those lines. That would have been very useful. Very useful. Because as we know, when the siege happens, you're not going to try to scale the walls. You will lose a third of your army instantly. It's stupid. With the siege, you're just going to surround the fortress and wait. And if they have enough food supplies in there to last them a year or two, you're going to be waiting a while. Or if they have farming within the kingdom, well, you're going to be waiting even longer. So you want to cripple that as quickly as possible. Destroying the crop, poisoning the water, destroying armaments, weakening defenses. That would have definitely been a good strategy to employ. I don't know. Maybe she did that. Maybe she didn't. What did you think about her little speech? Her speech was... In the route where you join her, it felt good because she did rally her friends. In the speech that she gives when you don't side with her, it felt a little bit dictatorial because she mentioned that it was her decision. And on the name of the Emperor herself, she's waging war. So she's more going, I'm the Emperor, I'm deciding we go to war, and you follow me. It is the war for my glory. As opposed to, we're going to war to liberate for the people. That's what I felt. I felt that her second speech in the route where you don't side with her sounded very dictatorial. At the same time, that could have been the report that we get from Shamir, because we weren't physically present. And as we know, propaganda is a very real thing. So that could have been the spin on it, that she sounds like a dictator. Similar to, you know, how when you talk about your enemies in old stories, they're portrayed as monsters and they're ghoulish and they have fangs and all this sort of shit, you know? It's built-in propaganda. It's someone's recollection of an event rather than the transcript of what was actually said. At the same time, it'll be interesting to see where it goes. The second one definitely portrays her as a dictator. The first one kind of portrays her a little more as a liberator because her anger is pointed towards the church, who abuses their power, who grows rich, you know, by milking the people who have faith in the goddess, which makes sense. That makes you come across as a liberator. That makes you definitely a lot more likable, but you got to be careful with that because at the end of the day, the people, the civilians in the middle of the war are going to be the most impacted. And when one of the sides gets desperate, they're going to be making some very questionable decisions in order to secure their own survival. So you got to be careful. I think it's very important to get the people caught in the middle on your side as quickly as possible. I think both Rhea and Edelgard described the others as way too over the top, as neither as dictatorial as the other beliefs. Well, it's easier to demonize your enemy, right? And if you demonize your enemy, it's easier to justify your actions. If your enemy is the literal devil, you can easily justify war crimes. Because, oh, well, I'm doing bad things, but I'm doing it to prevent an even worse ruler taking over. You know what I mean? That's done a lot, particularly in times of war. It's been done over and over again. I mean, just look at any of the war propaganda over the past 100 years during World War I, World War II, Vietnam, even the war in Iraq and all these other things. The other side was always demonized, right? The people as well were always portrayed as barbaric or bloodthirsty or, you know, whatever. Whereas most of the people and civilians were just normal people, and actually most of the people in the armed forces weren't necessarily monsters. They were just people that wanted to protect their home. So it's very easy to demonize. You should be very careful, and you should always question what you believe. It's okay to believe things, but you should always question why you believe a certain thing. She's been passive. I don't think race matters. She only retaliated when attacked. Not hard to justify finding the church who is ruled by a dragon. But the people don't know that she's a dragon. It was pretty funny considering for the past 2-3 weeks, I kept watching the opening and saying, where the fuck is this dragon? Who is this dragon? Why is there this one fucking white dragon with a gold crown? And then I'm like, is it Rhea because she wears white and she has like a gold crown? And it turned out that she was the dragon. And I even said, why is the sword of the creator surrounded by fire, you know? And why is there always a dragon shortly after? You know, is the dragon related to the sword, which turned out to be related? It brings the question on what exactly Rhea is, because she's definitely in human form. And we've seen people take forms of dragons when they've tried to use a holy relic which didn't compute with their crest. So it begs the question, did Rhea turn into a dragon when she got hold of a relic that she did fit in with? Like, there's a lot of questions there. And it might also explain why Rhea was on that battlefield God knows when, yet she doesn't look any older. And it begs the question, Are we related to her? Are we not related to her? What's the goal with Gerald? You know, what's the goal with Sedith? What's the goal with Fleanne? How old is she? How old is Sedith? How does that work? Are they human? You know, there's this, all these questions open up. Now that you know mostly what the opening shows, it makes this next section of the story interesting. Difference between dragon and demonic beasts. Beasts aren't really connected, too different. Well, beasts seem to have lost their, I don't want to say individuality, but they seem to have lost their consciousness. They're not in control of what they're doing, whereas I believe that Rhea is possibly in control of what she's doing as a dragon. It's a form that she controls, whereas the beasts are basically people that have lost their form and become basically beasts that work on instinct. Either way, I don't know. It's going to be interesting. A lot of questions have come up, but obviously the story is going to answer them at some point. I think it's interesting. There's so much potential in this story. There is a lot of potential. There's a lot of things that could happen, and I'm very invested in seeing what will happen. I like that there are a few choices we can make here and there that have changed the outcomes in the story. One of which was whether or not we wanted to go to Edelgard's coronation, which we chose to go because why wouldn't you go? And the second one was deciding whether or not to kill her. I had a feeling that deciding to kill her wouldn't actually result in her death, because if we killed her at this point, there would need someone else to step in as an antagonist to keep the story moving. So you see, like, Hubert just teleports in and saves her anyway. Fair enough, cuck boy. In this case, we chose to side with her, which means we're going to get to see the conflict from her point of view, which I think is a massive opportunity, because ultimately I decided to go with the Black Eagles because Edelgard was the only female student. I know, right? I think with my dick. So we chose to be in Edelgard's house because she was a chick. A big surprise there. Eventually, we chose not to kill her because I didn't believe that she deserved to die at that point. For a few reasons. One, you're basically instructing her as a teacher and you kind of want to teach your students. And two, I believe that there's a lot of potential in her for her to be a good leader. I believe that she makes decisions based on her beliefs rather than just pure personal ambition, but I could be wrong on this. Her story so far has been one of a very mistreated heiress to the Empire, not a direct heir to the throne, but an heiress nonetheless, a few seats away from the throne. She's gone through some experiences which would typically destroy or break other people. She's managed to keep moving regardless of that. She definitely wants to bring change, which she believes might be for the better, but the path to hell is always paved with good intent. The real question becomes whether or not that's going to stick. I think that's why it's very important to be an advisor, because someone with just passion might not make all the right decisions. So I think that being on her side in this case enables us to, at the very least, change the course of where this war might go, because she could at this point turn out to either be on the side of the people or to be on her own side. And I think that's the key difference. She could be a liberator or she could be a conqueror. That has yet to be decided. I would be worried to let her go on her own without proper counsel, because it's very easy to become a conqueror. It's very difficult to remain a liberator. So I think if we remain as her counsel, there is the opportunity to forge her into a liberator of the people, which I see as being noble, in a sense, because you're improving the lives of the people. So there is potential to make her a very protagonist hero of the story. At the same time, she might go down the path of so many liberators that have turned into bloodthirsty conquerors. We don't know. That's why I have so much invested in the story. There's endless potential in the story. Imagine Rhea's shock when you reveal that you already absorbed the goddess. Imagine her shock when she finds out. We sat on the throne and nothing happened. Error 404, goddess not found. And there is always the question of who knows what truth, if there is any solid truth. Well, there is a difference between the absolute truth and knowing a truth absolutely. We all have points of view, and that's what most of truth is. It's just a point of view. History is just his story. History is written by the victor, and when someone wins a war, typically all the crimes that they've committed get swept under the rug. An excellent example of this would be Cleopatra, who is known in history as the most beautiful woman ever. She wasn't above average. She just killed every single person that didn't say she was the most beautiful woman in the world. And history remembers her as a beautiful goddess that tamed Caesar, even though that whole relationship was based on a geopolitical alliance because Egypt in that time had fertile land which the Roman Empire needed to supply them with grain. And without Egypt being on side, the Roman Empire would not have been able to function because it was a giant war machine that specialized in conquering and used mostly slaves for what was it called, farming. And by having an ally that's able to produce vast amount of grain, enabled the Roman Empire to, keep functioning. So that whole thing about Cleopatra seducing Caesar, sure, he might have been attracted to her, but that's not the only reason, It's like, fuck. But yeah, look, history is written by the victor at the end of the day. There's countless war crimes that the Allies committed during World War I and II that are swept under the rug because it's politically convenient and they won the war. That's not saying that either side is innocent. I'm just saying that a lot is lost on purpose. I mean, look at any religious text like the Bible. How many books were originally written by prophets and disciples and bishops and whatnot? I think there were dozens of books written, but only about 8 or 10 actually made it at the end in the Bible. And even then, a lot of portions were censored. Why? Well, because it was inconvenient to have certain things in the book. What's happening? I just woke up and thought I was late for the actual Anime Monday. No, you're not late. We're about to start. We were just discussing a little bit of Fire Emblem Three Houses. War was declared, so it's getting very interesting. Also, Kuma, I missed the first part of the stream before the mission. Are there much supports done? Oh yeah, we did all the supports that we left last week. It was actually pretty good. It was mostly Felix, which was very entertaining. I never thought Felix would be so entertaining. I'm actually really glad that we recruited him. Through sheer dumb luck, we recruited Felix. And he turned out to be basically Virgil, which is kind of funny. Considering we just finished Devil May Cry 5 Special Edition. So it's going to be fun to have him around. He's a strong unit. He has a really strong shield and really strong melee attacks. But at the same time, the support seemed pretty fun. So, look, it's going to be interesting to continue next week. I'm really looking forward to seeing where this story goes. There's probably going to be a lot of discussions. Yes, the war. This is what I've been waiting for. I have a feeling that most of you were probably waiting for this part of the story to begin. So I thank you for bearing with me and waiting for the 1.5 years now that we've been playing this game and we finally got to this segment. It's been a long journey. It's been a lot of fucking around, but we're finally here. And look, during that time, there's been a lot of upgrades. We've upgraded the computer after the old one ended up dying. We've upgraded the camera, as you can see, so things look a lot nicer. We've upgraded the capture card so we can actually record gameplay in 4K. Everything's running really nicely now, really smoothly. So we're going to be able to stream weekly now. We now stream 3 days a week, which works really well. And pretty soon we're going to have a studio just for streaming, so the background's going to look totally different because I can put cool shit in the background. So thanks for bearing with me. We're actually getting there. It's getting good. So things are looking up. Things are looking up. All right. Felix is considered the strongest physical unit as the game, as he can be any type of physical unit effectively, like how Lysithea is the strongest magical unit. So we have the strongest physical unit, we have a walking battle tank being Edelgard, and we have a tactical nuke. Wow, this playthrough is going to be easy. We also have the Ashen Wolves as well as Heal Bomb. Having the Ashen Wolves is very handy. We have both Constance and Happy. Now, to be fair, they're both glass cannons. However, they're highly mobile class cannons. And if we can get their magic abilities high enough to have range, and then get them to go in, strike, and move out, they could be very useful for taking out heavily armored units, because heavily armored units can only strike what's directly in front of them. So if we're one space away, we can take them down with a heavily powered up flying unit that can also move out of the way. However, that's very circumstantial, and as we've seen, we have archers that can pretty much pick them off within 2 shots anyway. So, we'll see. We'll see. Either way, I don't think the gameplay is going to be a problem in this playthrough. I think it's going to be a bigger thing when we play the other routes in a harder difficulty. But for now, I think the gameplay is just going to be for shits and giggles, which is why we're using training bows, training lances, training swords. We're just having fun with it, and we're still learning. We only found out about crafting weapons like, what, 4 streams ago? And we're, what, halfway into the game? It's just learning at this point. The second playthrough in a harder difficulty where we don't grind as much is going to be the proper tactical playthrough. This one is just doing shits and giggles and fucking around with the AI.
Hey, did I hand you a shrinking potion by accident? I could have sworn that was the gender swapping one.
Don't be hating. She's fun sized, that's all. She doesn't even have to get on her knees to blow.
You want to add anything to that conversation?
Nope, I'm good.